You know that Keeley Companies is all about fostering the world-class culture through their incredible cultural pillars. Well, it was time to add a seventh cultural pillar, Keeley Green. Guided by the mission to raise the sustainability standards by which they design, build, operate, and live, Keeley Green is dedicated to using a holistic approach to leave a positive impact on our environment, create a future that is sustainable for generations to come. In the words of Rusty Keeley, we are just getting started. You can learn more about that just getting started mentality and all the work they do by visiting my friends at Keeley Companies online at KeeleyCompanies.com.
Welcome to the Live Inspired podcast with John O'Leary. John is the two-time national best-selling author of On Fire and In Awe. He's a world-class inspirational speaker, the host of the Live Inspired podcast, and he's the real-life inspiration behind the major motion picture Soul on Fire. Each week, John interviews extraordinary individuals about their life stories so you can more fully live your life story. Here's your host, John O'Leary.
Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to the Live Inspired podcast with John O'Leary. According to the Anti-Defamation League, anti-Semitic incidents in the United States have reached record highs. More than 3,600 were reported just last year. And since October 7, 2023, incidents have spiked with Jewish students feeling less safe on campuses. Synagogues required increased security, and families asking questions they hope that they would never have to ask again. Now, these aren't headlines from World War II Europe or from some other century. These are realities we face today in our country. But the conversation today on our podcast is not about politics or taking sides in some global conflict or headlines. Our conversation today is about people. It turns out that hatred grows in distance and in ignorance, but understanding and empathy grow in proximity and in relationship. When we do not know one another, fear fills that space. But when we listen, something changes. Our mission here at Live Inspired with John O'Leary has always been to positively change the world one life at a time, starting with our own. That never, ever, ever happens through shouting. It happens through courage and humility and relationship and compassion, and then most importantly, listening. Today, I'm honored to welcome guests who will be building bridges, student to student, story to story, heart to heart. You're going to love this conversation. So my friends, before I bring on our three VIP guests, two of them are students, one of them is a former student, a current teacher. My encouragement is to uncross your arms. How about that? Put away the paper that brings such certainty into your life. Open up your favorite Live Inspired journal. You'll need it today to open more wide your heart and your life to my friends. So brothers and sisters, welcome with me, won't you, my newest friends, Lauren, Abraham, Ayden, and Yehudah. Friends, welcome to Live Inspired with John O'Leary.
Thank you so much for having us today.
We're going to have a little roundtable conversation. We have two students with us. They're going to be brought into the classroom here in a moment, but I'm going to let their leader go first. We're going to unpack a little bit of Lauren's story, what brings her into this conversation, what informs her work. So Lauren, if you and I were to bump into each other at a local grocery store, and I said, Lauren, what do you do? How would you answer that?
Oh boy, I help change the world daily, one classroom at a time. I try to make the world a better place. I am so blessed to have the job of being the director of the student-to-student program of the Newark Institute at the Jewish Community Relations Council. And this program started 30 plus years ago, before I came into the picture, with my wonderful predecessor, Batya Abramson Goldstein. She was asked to be a guest speaker in a Catholic school classroom in their world religions class. And she taught them about Judaism. And she noticed the students were listening, but she thought there's got to be a better way to do this. I think if I bring their own peers into the class with me, they will want to listen to each other. And that is exactly what our program is. I go from classroom to classroom all around the St. Louis area, and I bring amazing students like the ones you're going to meet in just a few moments. And the students talk about their lives as Jewish teens. And I'm the one that connects with the teachers, the school leadership, the districts, and I'm the one that sets up this magic. I like to say, I help train the students. We won't just let them go into any classroom and just go talk. We have a program. They go to an orientation. These students are recommended by their rabbis or educators. These students are students that have proven themselves and throughout their careers in Jewish education, and they're people that are doing good for the world, trying to make the world a better place and in their own way. So when we bring them together, we say that's when the magic happens.
So you and I are no longer teenagers. I know. That's, unfortunately, for those of you watching this conversation, you already know that about me. It's also true, though, about Lauren. But Lauren, you work with teenagers. You once were a teenager. What informs from the past tense the work that you're doing today? So talk a little bit about growing up.
So I grew up going to Jewish day school in Dallas, Texas. I grew up going to a conservative synagogue. My father took me every Sabbath to the services, and really I became part of the community. I had my bat mitzvah, which was a transformative moment when I felt I became an adult in the eyes of the Jewish community.
So I'm going to pause you just for a moment. Many of our listeners will know some of the terminology you're throwing around, and many won't.
Right.
So you just dropped a word, bat mitzvah. What is a bat mitzvah?
So a bat mitzvah is a daughter of the commandment. And so generally it happens for girls when they turn the age of 13. For boys, it's a bar mitzvah, a son of the commandment. And that's when they turn 13. Girls can have it at 12 or 13. We're a little more mature than the boys, we say. But that is a time when really the students study for over a year with the clergy of the congregation. They learn the Torah reading of the week. So that's in Hebrew, which is a whole foreign language, which takes years to really master and learn. And so when these students become a bat mitzvah, they're not only becoming an adult in the congregation, but they're being able to make their own decisions, how they want to live their Judaism, how they're going to celebrate the holidays, how they're going to continue their studies. So it's such an important time. And that's the time that the students now are talking about and reflecting on when they go in the classrooms. So after my bat mitzvah, I decided I wanted to be a teacher. I always was veering that path, but I wanted to teach in a Jewish day school or in some kind of Jewish communal organization.
Tell me about that. Because many of us grow up in religious homes, and it's our parents' religion.
Yes.
Or I'm Irish. It's my grandparents' heritage.
Right.
It sounds to me like for you, it was your heritage, it was your ethnicity, it was your religion. When did you truly claim that?
I think going to a school that teaches Judaism and intertwines it into the day. So I went to a school in Dallas that is a Jewish day school. My kids go to one here. And my friends that you're going to meet, Ayden and Yehudah, have all gone through that life and really learned it and lived it during the day. The prayers were intertwined. The Jewish holidays were made fun and made to be celebratory and enjoyed. And that culture, just being around it for so many years and living the Judaism day to day, that connected with me. And I realized I wanted to be in that for my whole life in some way. And when I went to the University of Texas, I studied elementary education and was very involved in the Hillel house, which is like the Jewish house on campus. I would go there for prayers. I was in a Jewish sorority. So my friends were all celebrating. We'd light candles on the Friday night to begin the Sabbath together. It was very special. And then I went on to do my master's in Jewish education. And that's where I met my husband, who's actually a rabbi. So I didn't really know what I was getting into, but, after 5 years of rabbinical school and living in Israel for the year and learning and living it really, I have seen that Judaism and teaching about it is really my calling. So I kind of do it in a different way than I always imagined I would do it. I always thought maybe it'd be in a classroom or school setting. But now I take the show on the road.
That's pretty awesome.
And that's the cool, every day is different and a new experience.
As a kid, whether that's 6 years old or 19 years old, did you face anti-Semitism?
I have always been one to wear like Jewish jewelry, a necklace with a Jewish star, Magen David, or Chai, which is the Hebrew term that means 18. And I do recall as a student and as a teacher, sometimes having that urge to stick it in my dress and tuck it in, not knowing the comfort of what was around me. And that is a challenge that maybe not an anti-Semitism incident necessarily, but one of discomfort as a Jewish woman. So I try now to always showcase my Judaism and live it loud and proud.
Tell me why you think it is that anti-Semitism is on the rise. And maybe even before you talk about why,
Right.
What is anti-Semitism?
Well, in our presentations that we go out to almost 40 different institutions per year and give to over 5,000 students in the St. Louis area, we really describe anti-Semitism as the hatred toward Jews. And I think that it's on the rise really with teenagers and with younger people for one main reason. I really think it's the internet. It's social media. Our kids and all of us are so prone to grabbing our phone and checking out Instagram or the younger generation's TikTok or Snapchat. And people are putting misinformation or some story they saw, they're clicking share. That share button is so fast, or that heart button is so fast. And it's so easy to click without really having the full understanding of what you're doing. And when we go into the schools, they're often asking questions out of love and out of unknowingness. And it's not that they're trying to be rude or disrespectful or anti-Semitic in any way. They're just curious about the answer. I see that really on a daily basis. So if we can get them young and we can talk to them before they have been prone to think the wrong way and we can get them right, I think that's really the key to success.
Yeah, my hope with social media and the internet was always that it would truly draw us together. To me, it seems, as I talked about in the intro, when you get to know someone else's story, it's very difficult to hate them.
Yes.
Even if you profoundly disagree with them. It's very hard to hate someone.
Yes.
And yet the internet has seemed to make us feel as if we know everything immediately without having any true knowledge, where it's very easy to heart it up, like it up, or share it out.
Yeah.
And it's frequently misinformation and frequently hate speech. So talk about student to student. When were you first made aware of them and what drew you in?
So when I was moving to St. Louis for my husband's job, actually, somebody recommended this job to me. My predecessor, Fawn Chappell, who Batya and hired and did the job for over 20 years, decided it was her dream and her vision to take student to student out of St. Louis and to move it to other cities around America and in Canada, and hopefully even broader. But Fawn really couldn't juggle doing the program in St. Louis and taking it abroad. Right. She needed some help. And this job was open right at the right time. I went with Fawn to see a presentation, and we really talked about this wave of Jewish education being the way of the future, of getting the students out there. And even I have brought to the table this idea of bringing the students from the schools into our religious institutions, taking a field trip. Yeah. Didn't you love taking field trips when you were in school?
I grew up in a Catholic school. We would go to synagogues.
Exactly.
And it was a really cool way to get to know a religion and a religion that led directly into ours.
Just yesterday, we had a Catholic school group of 44 students come to one of our synagogues. And the rabbi asked them, have any of you ever been to a synagogue before? Have any of you ever been inside? And one of the 44 raised their hand. And so that was an experience that we really could give them. The other 43 can now always remember this time and always remember what it felt like to go into a different religious institution. And there was no horns on the Jewish people, no chaos, no negativity. It was a positive morning of asking questions and of hearing from each other and of dialoguing. One of the things that we do in our program, our specific manner, is we are a person-to-person program. We don't use PowerPoints. We don't use movies. We don't use any sort of, futuristic stuff. We use the down-home like you said, person to person talking. We do love to have our props. I brought some of the props today to show you, because when you touch something or feel something, that's when it connects with your heart.
So you are a trained teacher. You're the wife of a rabbi. You're a busy human being. You go into a student-to-student gathering, and we all go to a lot of seminars and meetings where it was like, oh, it was really nice. But then we go back to our real work and our real life. There had to be something about this that drew you in to make you recognize this has to be done and done well and done right, and I'm going to be part of it. Yes. So what was it about that gathering, whether it's the first time or the next time in, where you felt the drag on your heart to commit?
What I love about the program is the joy that it expresses in Judaism. So many people are so quick to jump to the Holocaust, anti-Semitism. But when we go into the schools and when our students talk, they begin by introducing themselves. Ayden, who you'll hear from, is going to tell you, I'll give you a little snippet into that she loves to dance. Yehuda's going to tell you that he loves to lift weights or play basketball. And all of the students in the classroom are thinking and processing, wow, I like to do that too. So we started out with the connections. And then we talk about ourselves, what branch of Judaism we're connected with. The students will talk about their rituals that they follow, their trips to Israel, their favorite holiday, their favorite celebration, their favorite Jewish food. We show Judaism in a positive light.
Yes.
We show the things that make our hearts sing in our religion. And that is what I instantly fell in love with. That it's not just about us leaning on our history and the atrocities. It's leaning into the good of the people and leading into the good that we feel when we're worshiping or when we're proudly in our synagogue. Those are things that we want the rest of the world to know and learn about.
Well, I think another thing that you ought to be proud of is this heritage.
Yes.
As growing up in a Christian home, we focused a lot on the New Testament. For us, a newer book. So when Jesus shows up in our world, the New Testament is the book that we have to celebrate that history, that heritage. And we didn't look much at the sacred scriptures as much of the Old Testament, of your sacred scriptures. Since reading through the Bible in its entirety several times, I'm blown away at the history.
Yes.
Robust, vibrant, living history
Yes.
that ought to be celebrated. And too often, I think it's chastised. And I'm curious, in a world where you are not allowed to dislike anybody, supposedly, like we have to accept everybody always for everything. It seems there's almost permission right now to be anti-Jewish.
Yeah.
It's a very odd
Very
thing.
sad.
You can't be anti-anything, but Jewish, I think that's one thing that somehow both the left and the right are whispering, saying, yeah, I think that is one thing we can be a little bit against that. Why in the world, in a world that seems to embrace everything, is it okay to be against a group of people that have a long 3,000-year history of moving forward together?
I wish I could magically snap my fingers and give you the right answer to that question. There's so many different theories and philosophies of why, and it's just, I really think it stems with the misinformation. It stems with even the teachers. A lot of the teachers that come into our program haven't been to a Jewish synagogue before or had never been to a Passover Seder. Last year, I brought 2 tables full of teachers in to come see a Passover Seder, and they all weren't Jewish. They were all celebrating for the first time.
Tell us what a Passover Seder.
It's our meal that we come together. For each of our presentations, we take some of our, like I said, some props, but this is our sacred plate, a break-free version. I've broken a few of them. So I decided to go with the plastic, our little booklet of how we read all the words and say here's the 10 plagues. I just opened it to the 10 plagues where we feel empathetic to all the things that happened to the Egyptians, when they were trying to kill us, actually. But we want to remember all these things, these ways that God helped us. So the Passover Seder is really the meal where we all sit down together and we talk theology, we eat theology, we breathe theology together.
When you say we eat theology, what does that mean?
All right, so on the plate, we have specific sacred items we're supposed to eat. The hard-boiled egg for the sign of the circular idea of the circle of life. The horseradish that tastes bitter. You're supposed to cut off a little piece of bitter and put it with a little piece of sweet, which looks like the bricks that the Jewish people used to build the Egyptian pyramids. You're supposed to eat the sweet and the bitter to get a little piece together to show what's going on in the world, what you just said, the challenges of the world, yet we're going to try to survive. We are surviving and thriving and making the world better in the positive way. So we really are mandated on Passover to sit together as a family from generation to generation, to eat these things, to talk about these things, to learn about these things. So when we go into these schools, and I see my job a lot is to teach the teachers. They're the ones that are staying with the students year after year, day after day. They can be our advocates also and really share with their students all the positive things that they've gained from the Jewish religion.
I'm going to bring your students on to our podcast in 19 seconds-ish,
Great.
but we got to fill that time for a moment with you answering one final question. Instead of speaking in broad swaths of, I just love the impact in the classroom and the opportunity of drawing people into the conversation and knowledge, is there a specific incident where you were in the back of the classroom or on the side taking pictures and you're like, I am so glad right now in this moment that I got to witness that conversation or hear that question or their response to it?
Oh, those happen every single day for me. I think the one I want to tell you about is actually not that happened in the classroom. It's actually a student that graduated and went to the University of Iowa for college. She was there in her first year, and she was living in the dorm, and her roommates were asking her about why does she have to eat these things and this matzah cracker. What is she doing? Why is her mother sending her a box of this stuff? And she texted me, and she said, Lauren, I need help. I loved students so much, as you know. Can you go back to the folder that we got and that we always use, and can you take a picture of all the dietary laws that we explain so that I can share them with my roommates and keep it going? Because I want to teach them. Yeah. I've taught so many schools along the way, and I want to keep sharing it. And I was just crying when I read that text message, with beaming with pride, thinking, gosh, the things that we're doing are so important in the classroom, but they're living far beyond classrooms. They're living in dorm rooms when somebody's giving an explanation. They're living in, hopefully, college and beyond with our sacred alumni that are out there doing the good work. So that's the story I wanted to end with and tell you, that we've all got to keep counting our blessings, but keep moving them forward.
My friends, we are going to move some microphones around. We're going to bring in some students who are the real teachers in the room today. Yehudah, welcome to Live Inspire with John O'Leary.
Thank you.
Tell me about your name, first of all.
So my name is Yehudah. It roughly means thank you, God. Judah, the name that one of the mothers, the forefathers' wives gave their kid. It's as thank. It's the first time in the Bible that you see somebody kind of giving saying thank you in terms of that.
That's awesome. Ayden, I'm going to start with you. Did you grow up in a Jewish house? Talk about what faith meant to you as a kid.
I actually grew up in a split faith family. My dad's side is Jewish and my mom's side is Christian. So that experience was actually really cool because I got to grow up with both religions. I go to church and I go to synagogue. We celebrate both holidays at my house. I'm very fortunate to have a whole entire family who supports that. And it's really nice to do that. I also grew up at a Jewish day school. I went to Saul Mirowitz in Creve Court, and it was some of the best years I've had. I really enjoyed growing up with some of my best friends and having that Jewish experience every day, getting the knowledge, and it was just really cool.
Your dad brags on you. So when he's not making me do work, we talk a little bit about family and kids and faith, and I've been told that you are an awesome, gifted dancer. You like dancing?
Yes, I love dancing so much.
What is it about dancing you love?
I just really love expressing myself through my movement because, I love doing things like this, but also I tend to be a little bit more soft-spoken at times. And so dancing kind of gives me a way to express my personality through movement without speaking. And I also really just love performing for people and being on stage. Being on stage is like one of my favorite things to do. I crave it every time I do it, and it's the best feeling ever to just like be on stage in front of the lights performing for an audience.
That's
It's
awesome.
really cool.
Yehudah, welcome in, man. So I know what your name means. Now I want to learn a little bit more about your upbringing, though. Talk about your family of origin. What was faith like for you as a kid?
Yeah, so I have something that's maybe a little different than most of the students in the program. We talk about 3 different branches of Judaism. There's a lot more, but the 3 largest ones in St. Louis and in the United States are conservative, Orthodox, Reform. Different ways of observing it. Orthodox, so I'm an Orthodox Jew. It's conforming the most closely, adhering most closely to the laws brought down in the Torah.
Yes.
Whereas you'll have conservative, where it's like, okay, I'm going to take this upon myself to do this because it makes me feel more holy. And Reform kind of has that as well. And the conservative, I think Lauren mentioned she's conservative, not in the political sense at all. We always say that. But it's more of like a religious sense. And so I'm Orthodox, and that's a very different lifestyle. So you'll see a lot of different restrictions. We're following all the holidays. We keep the Sabbath.
Since you brought it up, just walk us through it now. So what does it mean to keep the Sabbath?
So in Orthodox Judaism, there's 39 basic laws that you have to follow. And from that, there's a bunch of other laws. So these laws come from the work that was done in the Holy Temple. So things like lighting a fire. Since you can't light a fire, since they did that in the Holy Temple, you're not allowed to connect like a flame. You're not supposed to cook things, and you're not supposed to... There's a whole bunch of other restrictions.
Yeah.
So the Sabbath is a day where you're kind of taking a break from the rest of your week. It's kind of a separation. It's one of our sections that we talk about in the program. So make a blessing, you have a meal, you have a blessing on some wine, you make a blessing on candles, on this challah, this bread that we have.
Yes.
You have a meal, we'll have a lot of spending time with friends, you go to synagogue, but you're not supposed to, as an Orthodox Jew, you're not allowed to, drive on the Sabbath. You're not meant to use your phone, turn on and off lights, cook things. It's a bunch of different things that make it very different feel from the rest of the week.
So as a Christian, we also are supposed to keep the Sabbath. And if we do that, it means for most of us, we might go to like a 46-minute church. And yet I think both of our religions would agree, I think God expected a little bit more than 46 minutes, checking a box, and then going to soccer practice, IHOP, and then the bar later on that afternoon to watch football. In your mind, why is keeping Sabbath important? Yes, it's God's command on your life, but what is the benefit in you as part of his people in keeping the Sabbath? So why does keeping the Sabbath matter?
Well, first off, of course, God said you keep the Sabbath, and I think it's great to have this sort of separation from the rest of your week, being able to reflect. The Sabbath comes because God rested on the 7th day. He finished making the world and everything like that, so we are kind of taking a break and reflecting on our week and being able to sit back and not have to worry about the stress and everything of life. Being able, even if you're not Jewish, just spending a day not using your phone, not worrying about homework and all the other things. There's so many different things you get from it.
It's just awesome.
Such clarity.
I lived for 4.5 years in a very Jewish part of St. Louis, a very Orthodox Jewish part of St. Louis. And I loved on Saturdays watching my neighbors walking as family everywhere around our community. It was enriching just to witness this. So, Ayden, talk about student to student. What drew you in? You're dancing, you're in studies, among other things in your life. You don't need one more thing, but you signed up for it. So what was it about student to student that you were attracted to?
Definitely after I graduated in 8th grade, moving to a normal public high school, I really was trying to search for ways to still be involved in my Jewish community without, having been in a Jewish school in my life. I wanted to still be involved in some way. I love public speaking. I love educating my fellow students, and student to student was a really great way to kind of advocate for Judaism, especially in this day and age. I really wanted to kind of be that voice for my community. And I also have a lot of my friends who I went to school with that are part of it, and it sounded like a really cool experience, and so I knew that I had to do it.
I asked Lauren earlier about antisemitism, so we know what it means. But for you, have you or one of your friends experienced that?
Definitely, for sure. Unfortunately, I have experienced antisemitism in my school. My instances weren't as severe as some of my friends that I've known. I know I've heard stories of kids drawing swastikas on bathroom stalls, notebooks, you name it, and have made some pretty nasty, social media posts. For me, I've had some kids in my classes who have made some anti-Semitic artwork and have said some not so good words to me. And, knowing that I was Jewish and in that class with them, so that obviously wasn't a good experience for me. But I'm fortunate to have the resources and the people that I know that I can go to. So I've never really, fortunately, felt, scared for my own safety. But that's definitely something that I look towards as I'm moving on and going to college and stuff.
As you look around your community, do you think others who celebrate the Jewish faith feel concerned for their own safety?
I don't want to be afraid to show people who I am. I don't want to be afraid to, like Lauren was saying earlier, wearing the jewelry or like wearing Jewish clothes or like my IDF hoodie or my Israel hat. Like, I don't want to be afraid to do that and to share my faith, which is why I chose to do this, because I know there are some people that maybe are, and I kind of want to be the representative for that.
Perfect. Yehudah, what about you? Have you experienced anti-Semitism?
I go to a Orthodox Jewish school, so in school you don't see as much. You might
Right, we're very accepted amongst our peers.
That's right. But certainly outside of school, there's been instances. So on the Sabbath, I dress a different way. I have, like a button-down white shirt, my black pants. I'm all dressed all fancy. I have my kippah on. This is like it's a Jewish hat that reminds you that God's always above you. So it's something that you can tell if someone's Jewish. And so I'll be walking down the street, and this has happened a few times. I'll walk to synagogue, and people will roll down their windows and scream like "Free Palestine" and like flip me off and all these other things, which, I'm 18-year-old kid. I'm not going to be able to free Palestine. I'm sorry. It's just like a hateful way of acting and yelling towards somebody and assuming, a lot of anti-Semitism comes from political reasons nowadays, especially with, a lot of stuff involving Israel and Palestine and all these other things. But really, there's a separate issue than going down and, yelling at somebody who's like, that doesn't accomplish anything.
Why do you think they do? Because it's so prevalent now that it's almost not even talking about, because it's oxygen. It's everywhere you go. This idea of hearing things like from the river to the sea, which I don't even think people understand what that really means. And if they do, wow. But what is the proper way to respond then to hate like this? And we could also play on the other side of the coin that the Palestinian people have experienced profound hardship too, and their own profound challenges. What is the proper way to bring peoples together? Because I think it's going to lead into student to student, the type of work you're doing. So help me better understand, how do we begin having conversations around these wildly divisive issues?
Just like Lauren said, everything stems from misinformation. There's been anti-Semitism since the first Jew existed. There's always been this sort of hatred of, lesser people. And this is not even just Jewish people in general. When there's somebody who's, smaller, littler than you, then you can go ahead and gives you the right to be able to start hating on them. And that's just how things have just historically have been. And so when you have Jews like this, and then you need to be able to get people together and say, hey, listen, like, it all starts with information. It all starts with being able to say, hey, look, these people are just like you. And that's really what the student does. And it shows people, it's like, hey, look, these kids are just like you. I've had people after presentations, they come to me and they're like, whoa, like, I didn't realize, like, I've never met a Jewish
I didn't know you played basketball. Yeah, that's right.
That's right. And it's just like, yeah, look at this.
So one of the reasons when we learned about the work you and Ayden and Lauren are doing collectively that I was so drawn to it is, years ago I was watching PBS, and there was a show that was filmed in Israel between families of Muslim faith and families of Jewish faith coming together and just talking. These people who hated each other. And then they would talk, and the first conversation was not very pleasant, but they would commit to doing it again and again and again. And they filmed each of these. And by the 5th and 6th and 7th and 20th time, they were hugging goodbye. And then they were hugging hello. And it was radically changing only a couple people, but it was changing a couple people. And when I look at the world, the way you change it is not politically in office typically. It's more the ugly work of one-to-one combat. It's getting to know the heart of one person at a time and sharing yours with them, which is, I think, what both of you are doing in the classroom. I have had the honor of speaking 2,800 times, which is a lot. Big stages all around the world, and I am most nervous in front of two audiences: prisoners and high school students. And maybe not even in that order. And I'm not saying this to be funny. Like, there's something about walking into a prison that is intimidating for me. A fully baked man at this point in my life and pretty confident in our work. And there's something very anxiety riddled about walking into a group of teenagers. I think they smell bull from a mile away. And so you better speak truth quickly. What prepares you to walk into a group of kids who do not know you and share a little bit of your heart with them? So I'll start with Ayden. Ayden, what gives you the courage to walk into a group of strangers and share a little bit of your faith?
I have never really been nervous to kind of speak in public generally, even with kids my own age. Obviously, it can sometimes be a little bit nerve-wracking just, because especially this is something I'm fairly new to,
Right.
Starting this program this year. But yeah, I just kind of think back to, if I do ever get nervous, to think back to my purpose and why I'm doing it. And
What is your purpose? Why are you doing this?
I want to be an advocate. I want to educate on not just anti-Semitism, but just what Judaism is, because I think a lot of the focus now is on anti-Semitism, the Holocaust, October 7th. But a lot of people don't really know much about the actual religion of Judaism or the heritage of Judaism. And so I think it's really cool to be able to not only go into schools and talk about the anti-Semitism part, but just to tell people about Judaism, which is really cool.
It's so important to hear that. You'll never fix what's wrong by talking about what's wrong. It's important to acknowledge it, but my gosh, we spend an awful lot of our effort these days on social media, politically, and just in the classroom talking about all the sins of the past with no opportunity at all to redeem the brokenness of today. And what you're bringing up, Ayden, right now is this idea of celebrating who we are, what makes us unique, the beauty of our faith, and what draws us forward together, not only in that, but together. So I appreciate you refocusing me on that. That's so important. What about you? Do you get nervous when you walk into a classroom? And if so, what do you do with those butterflies?
What I really like about Student to Student is that it gives me a lot of this public speaking experience and being able to talk about people. I mean, this is my life. It's a lot easier to talk about something that you're confident that you know a lot about.
Right.
And so, I mean, this is something that I live every day. I live this religion. And that's really something that I feel like I'm able to give over easily and be able to talk about.
60 minutes or so in a classroom. That is, if you, like dog years, it's like one dog year is like 7. 60 minutes in a classroom of high school students is 14 hours for normal time. So it's a lot of time to be in front of your peers. What's the path that you use to guide them into a meaningful conversation? So walk me through your agenda, your steps when you're in front of classmates.
Yeah, so we have kind of an outline that we follow every presentation. And so we introduce ourselves and then we kind of go through each kind of category and it's like what we have on our outline. But then we also open it up to a lot of questions. And that's where we really get into the meaningful conversations. That's one of my favorite parts of the presentations actually, is hearing all the questions that come from students. Like there's such a wide variety of questions.
Let's just do that, man. So right now, because I agree. My job when I'm in front of kids is to share my heart quickly and authentically so that they can raise their hands and ask and share. So you share your heart, you share a little bit of your faith, and then you say, any questions? Yeah. What are some questions that you've heard that have been moving, that have just been, oh, that's a great one?
I've seen people oftentimes stereotype Jewish people off of what they see in the movies, and they'll see classic Brooklyn Jewish people with the long hair by their ears and the big hats. And so people will ask me, they'll be like, oh, like, I thought like all Jews are kind of like that, or like, oh, like I didn't know that you guys are like just like this. And so they'll ask like, what are those types of Jews? And so it's very nice to be able to explain, Judaism. I always say this in every presentation, that Judaism is not limited to the 3 branches that we show in the presentation. We talk about all different types of Jews that exist.
For me, I say the ones that really move me specifically are any types of questions where kids are kind of trying to connect back to whatever their religion is, because I think it's really cool to see the curiosity coming from the students being like, oh, this is my religion, but like, how does it transfer to Judaism? And just to see that they care and are curious is really, really nice to see.
One of the things I've also noticed, whether they're adults or they're students, is sometimes people sit with their arms crossed. They don't want to be in the classroom and they don't want you to be in front of them. Do you have any ideas or techniques that you utilize to help them uncross those arms a little bit and lean forward and open up their hearts?
My favorite part of the program is at the very beginning. towards the first section of the program, after we introduce ourselves, we talk about the Jewish life cycle. So we talk about bar bat mitzvah, we talk about how Jewish boys get like a circumcision, and then we talk about the wedding. And that really, I feel like, breaks the ice. We say, okay, who wants to get married? And so people raise their hands and we have a little wedding. I bring my atalis. It's like a Jewish garment that will be used sometimes as like a chuppah. That's the canopy that Jewish couples will stand under when they get married. It symbolizes the house that they're going to build together.
Right.
And so we have people come up and they stand there and they say, okay, do you take this person to be your husband, wife, and all that stuff? And it really, people always laugh.
That's
and afterwards say mazel tov, and it kind of really brings people into
What does mazel tov mean?
Mazel tov, it means congratulations. And so we teach everybody to say, oh, mazel tov, and then we talk about, more things about the Jewish life cycle and the wedding ceremony, and it kind of really breaks the ice.
I'm assuming in every classroom there's folks that still don't want to be there, and they make it their mission to derail you, to ask you questions that are maybe too hard or purposefully almost mocking you. Have you ever experienced that?
Sometimes the teachers will get really into it and they'll say, oh, I've never spoken to an Orthodox Jew before, and they'll not in like a mean way, not to ask any be rude to me, but because they're so interested, they say, hey, hold on a second, and they'll ask more philosophical questions about belief in all these other things, and to which I say, ask a rabbi.
Right. Above my pay grade. I'm 18. I like playing basketball. Perfect. What about you, Ayden?
Yeah, so first, I just take a look at how I'm speaking, because naturally, I think, presentation, I'm going to be like, hi, my name is Ayden, I'm going to give you a presentation. But I think focusing on the way we're speaking, because I think if we're more conversational and more like a, student to student, then I think that will open them up a lot more. And one thing that we also do that I also enjoy is when we get into the kashrut and kosher section, we kind of ask them, has anyone had kosher food? And most of the time, nobody will raise their hand, maybe one or two people. And then we'll actually show them that we have Oreos here. But Oreos are actually kosher. And then they're all like, oh, wow, Oreos are kosher.
I was curious why the Oreos were stacked high on my table today. Now I know they're kosher food.
But yeah, I think it's, high school kids, bribe them with food, and I think we'll be good.
Let's talk about the food and the candles in front of you. So you brought these things. I don't know what some of them are. Take turns, if you don't mind, and tell me what you brought and tell me why you not only brought it today, but why you would bring that into a classroom.
So a big thing we have is the challah. You want to try some? You can.
I would love. So break me off a piece, please.
Okay, I got you. Get you a little bit.
And by the way, many of our audiences are not watching, they're listening. So describe with as much detail as you possibly can what I'm about to put into my mouth, because I'm very excited for this, and it's going to be a long time before I'm able to talk again. So
it's a braided brioche bread type of thing. Jews have it on Shabbos. It's braided, and we have two of them to symbolize different things in the religion.
Why would you bring it? Why does it matter in your religion? You can pull your chair in, Lauren. So Lauren, tell me about this bread.
So we always start with the candles. We tell them the prayer in Hebrew, which they love to hear. A different language is so cool. Another special moment.
Do me a favor. Will you say the prayer for me in Hebrew?
Sure. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav b'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us to kindle the lights of the Sabbath.
Wow. It's beautiful.
So that's how we begin at sundown Friday night, and my family comes in. We have a room and a space that we light our candles. Some people do it at the table. So, and then we have a cup that we fill with grape juice or wine, and we say the prayer over the fruit of the vine. That we thank God for having that. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav b'tzivanu borei pri hagafen. And then
Tell me what that means.
Thank you, God, for making blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us to enjoy the fruits of the vine. And then a cool thing that we often teach in the classrooms is at the end of the prayer, we say Amen, which means I agree. They know amen usually. Yeah. We say in the Hebrew Amen. And then we always bring a challah bread. Sometimes it's from Schnucks or Trader Joe's. And a lot of times I make it.
For our non-St. Louis listeners, Schnucks is like a big grocery chain. that we love here in St. Louis.
Yes.
Fishnick's family are friends of ours, and Terry's a dear friend. So that's
Yes.
sometimes where you get the bread, other times you make it.
Exactly. So we say that the bread on the Sabbath is like the sustenance that sustains us. As Yehudah told you, we don't do any work on the Sabbath. So we have to make all of our food and prepare it on Friday. And God gave us a double portion on Friday so that we would have food for the Sabbath.
That's awesome.
So what we say, the sort of fable is that we keep the bread covered. We don't want the bread to get jealous of the candles or the wine that get blessed before it. So we take off the challah cover. Many of the covers say Hebrew words or have fancy writing. I use a napkin for today's purposes. And the bread is like we said, a brioche bread with egg. It's a key ingredient. It's braided to take the idea of the holy and the mundane.
Yeah.
The idea of the sacredness
Oh, it's so good.
of the Sabbath.
Talk more about that, the holy and the mundane.
Right. So we want to weave the traditions of our forefathers and foremothers and bring them into what we're doing today. We know that keeping the Sabbath is really tough. Yehudah likes basketball. It's hard for him to miss the basketball games on Sabbath, but he's going to be in synagogue then, and he knows that. And so we try to make our food kind of represent that. There's the pull and the push.
Yeah.
There's actually like the basics of braiding the hair. This is a 3-strand braid. I personally like to add sweetness and savoriness. For my Sabbath challahs, I like to make one that's sweet with cinnamon and one that has like everything bagel. And I try to tell, I always, my little words of Torah are, you got to think of this past week and what were your best moments, your sweetest moments, and what were your most savory moments? What were your challenging moments? And we want to taste all of that as we go in to this holiday. A lot of people put sesame seeds. Some people, my kids prefer the chocolate chips, of course. But this is the bread that kind of binds us together with the Jews and other cities and other states and other countries. It's sort of, we all know this concept and we all thirst and hunger for this concept. So we bring it to the schools. And like we said, Ayden did a great job of showing the Oreos, but we give everyone their own Oreo because they have to find the kosher symbol. It's like a Where's Waldo activity. That's another cool concept. We kind of do a classroom takeover. Yeah. We ask the students, do you want your Hebrew name written on the board? And they think it's so cool. Now with the no cell phone policies in the schools, the students aren't allowed to have their cell phones.
Yeah.
But some of the teachers are generous enough to let the kids pull out their phones and take a picture of their name in a different language. And that's always their favorite. A lot of hands are raising to get their name written on the board. And we also explain to them about the kosher symbol, and we write those symbols on the board and have them look for them. So we really try in all of our presentations to make them interactive, fun, unforgettable, and so that the next time the students are in Trader Joe's or Schnucks, they look for those symbols and they'll remember us.
Well, I've been eating this bread while you were talking, and I'm glad you spent a few minutes speaking because otherwise I would have had a lot of bread in my mouth when I asked the next question. It was delicious, and the story behind it makes it even more delicious. So thank you for that. We're going to begin moving toward concluding our conversation, but I do want to make sure I ask both of the students about a favorite experience they've had. Being in front of students can be hard, can be awkward. It certainly puts you out there, undoubtedly. And yet then you go back out to your car, to your parents' car, your teacher's car, and has there been a time where you thought to yourself, I am so glad I did that today? Was there a moment in time where you recognized that was like a highlight reel moment right there? I'm so glad we were part of that.
Yeah, so honestly, every single presentation that I've been to, I felt like that after. It's just one of the greatest experiences I've ever had. Specifically, the last school I was fortunate enough to go to, that one was really special. I feel like all the groups of kids that I got to speak to, they were all really good groups of kids, and the teacher was amazing. The questions that we were asked were amazing questions, were really insightful, and I felt seen, and it was really nice to kind of be able to talk about my life and for my peers to talk about their lives with a group of people that were really interested. You could just tell that they really cared, and it's really nice to see other people care as much as we do.
You used an expression that I love. You said it was so nice to be fully seen. What does that mean to you?
To me, that just means I'm understood. People recognize me for who I am. But yeah, it was really, really cool.
Yehudah, what about you? A specific incident that you were just grateful to be a part of?
Something that I really enjoy about the program is being able to learn from other people. I think that that's something that's really cool for me to be able to go to the other schools, going from this really small private Jewish school, not really having much exposure to, other types of conservative Reformed Jews, and as well as non-Jewish people. One specific instance I can remember is at SLU High, they have, for I think it was a minute or 2 minutes every day, they have like a period of silence where everybody takes a break and they stop doing anything. They sound like a little thing through the speakers, and everybody just went silent. Nobody was, talking, running around, anything like that.
Right.
And it's kind of like our Jewish Sabbath, taking a break from the rest of the busy world. So something that's really meaningful is being able to learn from other people and see what other people's cultures are like. And I think that's super important in all regards. Everybody should be learning about other people and other differences and what makes people special.
A whole bunch of our listeners are older than 17 or 18. That's how old my two guests are right now in front of me. As you age, it gets harder and harder, I think, to break out of your comfort zone and meet people who are different than you are, whether that's social economic background, racial background, political background, or faith background. Give me some idea or a specific thing that you think, hey, listeners, one thing you should consider doing today to break out of that comfort zone is, so what's something practically that I could do as a guy who's busy and committed in my faith and racing around after kids, and I got a million things going on, and it's hard for me to break out of the people that I normally hang out with normally? What's something I can do to get to know them a little bit better?
I would say, just for anyone, go explore, have conversations with people and connect with people. We were kind of talking about earlier some of the negatives of social media, but I think we need to start using social media in a more positive way. There are so many positives that come from social media. We can connect with people more than we ever have before, and I think it's important that we utilize that and connect with people, have conversations, because through that we can meet so many more people all across the world that, we would never think to have met in our everyday lives.
So good. Yehudah.
So yeah, no, student to student, the name itself is really what's the most important thing, is being able to talk face to face to another person and say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I'm like, this is something about me. And really, you said about the people who are different, they, talking to each other more and being able to learn from each other more. That's just super important. And being able to educate yourself, start from square one, meet somebody who's different than you and talk to them and ask them about them, because they're happy if they know who they are, they know what they're talking about. And so you should ask them, hey, tell me a little bit about your culture, tell me about your background, something about you, because that's super important to be able to learn from other people. Because otherwise you have so many stereotypes online. You see all these things and you never really know until you meet somebody and you say, okay, this is what these people are actually like.
So you're saying put down the bullhorn, quit screaming.
That's right.
And maybe get to know someone's story and someone's heart. 94% of the news stories last year were negative. The world is pretty certain that it's never been worse, and it's getting worse each day. That's kind of how the world feels about itself. You are these young leaders. You are about to launch off to school next year, college, and you're a year behind that, Ms. Ayden. Are you optimistic or are you pessimistic as you look forward, and why?
I'm definitely optimistic. I think that our generation, I feel like we have a lot of strong leaders. I know a lot of strong leaders that I'm close friends with that are a part of this program specifically, but more than just in the St. Louis area, this program, I think all across the world, we have a lot of young teens who are starting to kind of step out of that box and really become a voice. And so I do have hope for the future that, we can come out of this for sure.
Yeah, I think it's like what Lauren said about the student that reached out to her outside. I think taking student to student outside of high school, outside of that, to, really represent Jewish people. I think that that's something that's very important and honestly a little scary with the presentations, is being the representative of this is what Jewish people are like. So going in this store and acting like a good person and, being a good person, and people see that and they say, okay, look at this. Like, this is what Jewish people are like. And you have that positive association and getting to meet people and being able to know and teach people about my culture and my religion and what I do, really, I feel like it's going to make a difference in the world.
I just want to remind everybody as they're listening to this conversation, you're listening to the voices of a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old. just dropping truth bombs and wisdom into the busyness of our days. So I'm grateful for both of your lives and your optimism. I agree with you. But it also may require great leaders and humble servants to fight for it. So thank you for being on the front line of that. You may or may not know, but we've been doing this Live Inspired podcast with John O'Leary for 7 years now. We've had guests from all over the world, and we wrap up every conversation with 7 questions. So I'm going to be asking all 3 of my friends today. Lauren, don't hide.
Okay.
Push the bread away. I know you're eyeing it right now, but no, get it out. Get it away from you real quick. We'll start with Ayden, and we'll keep this order all the way through. So Ayden, what's been the most impactful book you've ever read?
Oh, wow. I've read a lot of books in my life. I think Night by Elie Wiesel was definitely, it was one of the best books I've ever read in my whole entire life. We were fortunate enough in my pre-AP English class, my freshman year, we read that as a class, and we do a whole unit, and we focus on the Holocaust. And I never gotten to read that book before, but getting to do that in class, and not only, learning about it in school, but sharing and knowing that I, have a personal connection to it being Jewish, it was definitely.
Who is Elie Wiesel?
He was a Holocaust survivor, and he wrote a book about, him and his family's experiences through the Holocaust, and hearing those firsthand accounts of what actually went down in that whole journey from before the Holocaust to then being sent to the camps to then coming out of it was really impactful for me.
What blows me away, not only about Ellie's story, but about where we are in the world, is we think that we would be the ones who hide Anne Frank. We all think that. We all are certain that, of course, we would use our attic space for that. And then the reality is, really, when they knock on your door, you're going to say, come on up. And if they find you, they not only take you, but they take my family. History repeats itself. And I think why your work matters so much is we are fools to think that it can't happen again. So Ellie's story is shocking, and your work is important. That's what I would say. Lauren, what's been an impactful book in your life?
One of my mentors, this book that I just read of hers, People Love Dead Jews by Dara Horn. And she's a Jewish educator, well-known, someone that inspires my work. But Dara goes under this idea that we're so prone, like I said, to talk about the Holocaust and to think about the negatives. But we need to step forward and focus on what builds our religion.
Right.
And each of us, what builds our own religion. Not necessarily only the challenges of it, but what we can put our positive foot forward on.
Okay.
So, very inspiring.
Yehudah.
I'm not too big into reading, but a book that I really like is I Like to Kill a Mockingbird a lot. Read that in school a few years ago, and the lessons from it are very important. How people can be very quick to make assumptions on people and accuse people of things, when I feel like that's something that really speaks to me, and
Right.
something that, it's very important not to, generalize and say, okay, this person has to be bad because they're different than me.
Right on. So question number 2, what's one positive characteristic or one beautiful trait you possessed as a young boy, like 9 years old, that you wish you exhibited as brilliantly today as an 18-year-old?
I'd say I have a lot more confidence when I was younger. I would just say whatever came to my mind. And I feel like that's something that is really useful, being able to just quickly act and do whatever and act on the impulse kind of way, and hopefully in the good ways and the bad ways.
Totally.
But to have the confidence to be able to talk to people and say whatever I want. Sometimes I feel a little balled up. I'm more worried about what people are going to think of me and what I'm going to say and stuff like that. But it's important to go out and be confident.
That's awesome. It's Lauren.
When I was in high school, I won like an award about having a big personality. And I say,
Shocking, Lauren.
Yeah, shocking, right? I'm very shy. And so I say that today I try to keep that with me and use my personality. But when I'm in these presentations, I take a back seat.
Yeah.
And I try to get the students ready and as armed as possible. On the car ride here, we're always talking, or beforehand, I'll text them hints and ideas, or in our first semester, we do a Zoom meeting before each presentation to get ready, and I'll share, okay, this teacher likes to do these particular things. I want you to be ready for that. So I try to use my personality in a different way to help others.
When we booked this time, one of the cool things about you is you wrote back and you said, I'm so excited to do this, but please be aware the best part is not me, it's the student. And for someone to recognize that, in particular when they have a big personality, the beauty of taking the back seat, it's powerful. Ayden.
Yeah, when I was little, I had zero inhibitions. Like I did not care. Like I just did me. Yeah, I have a lot of great funny videos of me. And now I look back and I'm like, what was I doing? I thought I was just being normal. I thought I was so cool, whatever. But I think like every day I kind of try to take a little bit of that little me into the rest of my life.
So question 3 is, if your home caught fire and dad and your family and the animals were out safely, you have an opportunity of running back in and getting one thing that matters to you. What's that one thing you would grab?
I would probably grab my favorite stuffed animal, Choco. I don't even remember when I got it, but it's been with me for forever. I sleep with it every night, and I'm not ashamed of that.
Thank you. Lauren.
I would take my sterling silver giant Shabbat candles that were my mother's, who unfortunately she passed away from multiple myeloma cancer, but that was her gift to me.
Wow.
And I would grab those 2 beautiful candles and take them wherever I could settle next.
It's beautiful.
I like playing guitar a lot. I really like being able to do that. I feel like, my house is on fire. Might as well be able to play guitar while I wait for the house to get built back or something like that. Can I still vibe? Grab my guitar from upstairs.
All 3 are great answers. If you could sit on a bench on a perfect day and you could have a long conversation with anyone living or deceased, who would you like to be next to, Yehudah?
Probably like a president, like a leader of like a country of some sort. I'm not really sure where. Not really a specific person, but being able to talk to somebody who's in such a large leadership position. And it's so crazy to be able to live that life and have everything you say, like people are going to care about and make some sort of, whether good
Judgment.
Or bad,
Totally
some sort
right.
of judgment.
They amplify it all.
Being able to live with that is like such a heavy thing, and so interesting, like how these people in like large leadership positions like are able to, sort of live with that kind of power.
I'm going to force you to pick one person to put on that bench next to you. So who's that one leader that you want next to you?
Barack Obama.
Perfect.
He's cool.
So it's Obama hanging out with you on a gorgeous day. I love it. What about you, Miss Lauren? One person.
Oh my gosh. I have a few different answers, but you're not going to like any of them because there were blocks of people.
You have room for 2. So you have 2 arms.
Okay, I'll do that. But I'm going to go back in time to my college days of my sorority sisters, who it was such a myth that we were all going to live together and be best friends forever. And we all live in different cities all over the world. So I'd bring 2 of them to come sit and join with me and talk about the challenges of parenthood, of being a working mom, of all the things that are going on, and catch back up on life.
Perfect. Ayden, one person.
One person.
Or 2. You got room for 2.
I'd say one person that I would probably want to talk to. Very recent, actually. I've been following along with the Olympics, but the Olympic gold medalist, Ilya Malinin, I was just like, I saw him skate. I saw his journey at the Olympics, and, being an athlete, I can relate to that a lot, especially like the pressures of being on big stages like that.
Yeah.
And just the kind of pushing through those hard times and dealing with mental struggles and mental doubts, because especially at the level of dance that I'm at, that's definitely a thing, and that's something that I'm going to face in the future. And just, even though, obviously he's not a dancer, he's a figure skater, but like seeing how different athletes kind of go through that and learning from the work ethic of other athletes, I think that would be really cool. And then if we're going off the rule of we have 2 arms, we have 2 people. Another one I would definitely choose, my dad's going to be a fan of this one, is Francisco Lindor. If anyone knows, by the way, huge Mets fan over here. Sorry, St. Louis Cardinals. The Mets are on top. Mets are on top. I really admire, again, like his athleticness, his leadership qualities, his work ethic, and just like being not only like a world-renowned athlete, but just being a representative for so many people. I think that would be really cool. We're going to have a conversation with him. And also, he's Francisco Lindor. Who wouldn't want to have a conversation with him?
Perfect. What's the best advice Francisco or Iliad or anyone else ever gave you? So the best advice you've ever received is?
I'd say some of the best advice I've ever received is you're on your own journey. You're on your own time. You don't have to worry about where you are compared to someone else. Like, take your time. Your journey is specifically yours. Focus on bettering yourself instead of getting worried about oh, this person's doing this. Am I not doing the right thing? But focusing on your journey and, realizing that everything happens for a reason and the things that will happen will happen.
Okay. Well said.
Get out there and volunteer. That was the best advice somebody said. If you're moving to a new community or your child's joining a new school or you're involved somewhere different, get out there. Put yourself out.
Right.
Serve your community, for sure. My dad, he always tells me that. So I'll tell you a little story. I make the cholent every week at my synagogue. It's a traditional Jewish stew. It's really good. It's like beans and meat and potatoes. And I make it every week. And it takes a long time feeding, 100 people every week. And so I was doing a volunteer, and I told my dad, I wrote my college essay about this. I said, Dad, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not getting any money for this. I don't see, what's the point?
Right.
I don't really enjoy doing it. It's too much time. Everybody the next day comes and tells me, oh, how awful the food was. Oh, the beans weren't cooked enough and all these things. And he said, hey, do you think the president of the synagogue, you think that he gets paid? Do you think that the people that are working in the kitchen think they get paid? He said, it's all about volunteering. It's about serving your community for the sake of serving your community. And that's something that's super important, to be able to help your community just for the sake of being a good person. And that's something that every community needs.
That's perfect. This next question only applies to one of us because it's above both of your ages. So I have to go only to Lauren right now for this one. So Lauren, here we go. What advice would you give yourself at age 20? So you look back at that sorority girl and all those girls around her and the dreams you were casting for your future and how you felt about yourself. What advice did she need to hear?
I think be patient. Similar to Ayden's. I just learned this really cool fact that people change jobs 7 times. That is like the national average. Yeah. And we all go in with hopes and dreams of doing one thing forever, and this is what I want to be. But be patient and know that things are going to ebb and flow. It may not all be like you planned.
Yeah, that's for sure. So you've run the gauntlet. Okay, so I know you were very nervous about this interview. You've almost made it. Only one question remaining. We'll start with Ayden. It's been said that all great people can have their lives summed up in one sentence. You're only 17, but how would you like that one sentence to read?
Oh, wow. That's a hard question. I don't really know if I have a specific sentence or way that I would want it to be, but I would just want it to be centered around being a leader, a good example, a good personality, serving the community, and just being a good person all around. I think that's ultimately what I want to be.
I think that's one sentence where you were a good person and you served the community all around you. Not only your community, but the community is a pretty cool one sentence. Ms. Lauren, what's yours?
Life is going to be hard. Rise above.
That's a strong epitaph. Life was hard in her journey. She rose above. Yehudah.
I think just be kind. I think that's the most important thing, that you just have to be kind. You have to be kind to everybody, no matter who they are, what they're like. It's important.
Yehudah was kind, not only when he made stew for people who are frequently ungrateful for the stew he made, but for the way he showed up each day in his life. And I'm grateful for that. So is our listening audience. I want to thank you all for teaching us about our collective humanity, not just your faith, but about our hearts. It's Student to Student. It's a powerful program. Where can people learn more about this nationally?
So the Jewish Federation of North America has now taken Student to Student, started here in St. Louis, like I said, to 40 different cities and 2 in Canada. So they can go to the JFNA website to learn about it in their city. I encourage people to get involved. We always need volunteers. I have volunteer drivers and advisors and, of course, funders. If you're here in St. Louis or you are anywhere in the nearby area, if you're a teacher in a school, we need more teachers. I'm looking for educators all the time who want to bring us in their classrooms. We're at the Jewish Community Relations Council's website of St. Louis. You can find us there. Also on Instagram, you can follow our travels throughout the city at studenttostudent.stl. We'd love for you to see the pictures and the work that we do. And that is another way that we get our message across. We tag the schools. The schools will share us out. The students say that their favorite day of the school year was when the student-to-student teachers come into the class. So we love that.
I went to De Smet Jesuit for high school. You dropped earlier the term St. Louis University High. They are both Jesuit schools.
We go to both.
And I just think what a cool opportunity to bring students into your students' lives. So I encourage everybody to check it out. We'll have links to everything you dropped a moment ago in our own website, in the podcast show notes. You can learn more about that at johnolearyinspires.com/podcast. Family, friends, leaders, I want to thank you, as always, for tuning into this episode. I want to thank you for building bridges with us. I want to thank you for burning the paper and instead grabbing the person in front of you and loving them. It will change not only their life, but yours. So for this time, and until next time, my name is John O'Leary. Today is your day. What a gift. Live with your soul on fire.
Keeley Companies was started almost 50 years ago by the one and only Larry Keeley. What started as a small family-owned paving company in St. Louis has grown to a nationally known full-service construction, development, and restoration partner. Larry the Legend, as he is affectionately known, has been a part of this growth every step of the way and continues to provide guidance as his son, Rusty, my buddy, drives their vision and achieves results on purpose. His unwavering foundation of a family culture with a focus on people has gotten Keeley Companies to where they are today, and their journey is truly just beginning. To learn more about Larry the Legend and Keeley Companies, check them out at KeeleyCompanies.com.